There are some sentences you never think you'll hear from the person you love. Words so out of place, they echo in your skull like a gunshot in a quiet room. For me, that sentence was, "I wish you'd just go live your own life and leave me alone." She said it so casually, like she was asking me to take out the trash or run an errand. Not like she was severing the single thread still connecting us. Her name was Emily, and once upon a time, I believed the sun rose and set with her smile. We met in college, fell fast and deep, the way people do when they're young and stupid and sure nothing can touch them. We moved in together 6 months after graduation, married 2 years later, bought a condo with big windows that faced the skyline. I used to tell people, she's my best friend. And for a long time, that was true. But love doesn't usually die in explosions. It dies in the slow erosion of everyday life. It started small. A shift in the air between us. I'd come home from work eager to see her, but she'd be in the kitchen with her back to me, headphones in, chopping vegetables like she was trying to carve her way out of the marriage. Or we'd go out to dinner, and I'd catch her staring at other couples laughing, and see this look on her face, a look that said she wanted to be anywhere else. I tried not to take it personally. People go through rough patches. Jobs get stressful. Life gets heavy. But weeks turned into months, and the distance kept growing. Our conversations became transactional. Grocery lists. Utility bills. Who was picking up the dry cleaning? I remember one night sitting on the couch beside her, the glow of the TV washing over us. I reached for her hand, and she flinched. Just a small movement, but enough to make my heart drop into my stomach. She pulled her hand away and tucked it under a blanket. "I'm just tired," she said, eyes fixed on the screen. I said softly. "Are we okay?" She didn't answer right away. Then she let out a long, exhausted sigh and whispered, "I don't know." The next few weeks were agony. I was walking on eggshells in my own home. Every conversation felt like it might be the one that broke us for good. I kept waiting for her to snap out of it, for things to go back to normal. But normal never came. Then, one Thursday evening, everything changed. I'd made dinner, spaghetti, garlic bread, a bottle of cheap red wine. I was trying to recreate the meals we used to make together in the first year of our marriage, when our entire world fit inside that tiny kitchen. She barely touched her plate. She sat across from me with her hair tied up, wearing one of my old sweatshirts, staring past me like I was a stranger. Finally, she pushed her chair back, stood up, and said, "I'm going to stay at my sister's place for a while." My fork clattered against my plate. "What?" I can't breathe here anymore, Evan." I felt my voice rising despite myself. "Breathe? What the hell does that mean?" She didn't look angry. "Just empty. It means I'm drowning. And you're the water." Those words punched me so hard I actually swayed in my chair. She grabbed her bag from beside the table, slung it over her shoulder. "I'll text you later. Please don't follow me." I sat there long after the door clicked shut. The spaghetti went cold. The wine tasted like ashes in my mouth. Over the next few days, we barely spoke. She sent a few texts, vague and polite. "I'm okay. I just need space. Don't worry about me." Each message felt like a brick sealing up the wall between us. I kept replaying everything in my head, looking for the moment it all went wrong. Maybe it was my fault. Maybe I'd been too clingy, too focused on my own career, too oblivious to the signs. Or maybe she'd just stopped loving me, and there was nothing I could have done. The hardest part wasn't losing her. It was losing the version of me who felt sure that she'd never leave. One night, around 2 in the morning, I got in my car and just drove. I passed empty diners with neon signs buzzing like angry insects, gas stations glowing under harsh fluorescent lights. I ended up at a small park on the edge of the city, sat on a bench under a busted street lamp, staring at the patchy grass. I thought about the way she used to look at me when she laughed, about the way she'd curl into my side when thunderstorms rolled through, about the 1,000 tiny moments that had made me believe we'd last forever. And I realized I was mourning someone who wasn't coming back. I don't know how long I sat on that park bench, but by the time I got home, dawn was bleeding into the sky. Birds were chirping like they hadn't just witnessed the collapse of my entire life. I took a shower hot enough to burn, changed into clean clothes, and tried to pretend I was fine. Because that's what you do. You pretend. You tell yourself you're strong enough to handle the silence. Emily didn't come back that day, or the next. Instead, she sent me a text. "Emily, I need you to respect my space. Please don't come looking for me." I stared at the message until my eyes burned. Then I tossed my phone on the couch and paced the living room like a caged animal. Every inch of our condo reminded me of her. The throw pillows she insisted on buying even though they were way too expensive. The bookshelf cluttered with novels and half-burned candles. The dent in the drywall from when we tried to move the couch by ourselves and misjudged the angle. It was like living in a museum of our life together. That Saturday, I cracked and tried to call her. Straight to voicemail. I left a message anyway. Hey, it's me. I don't know what's happening, but I miss you. Please call me. She never did. The next few weeks passed in a fog. I went to work, did my job, smiled at coworkers, nodded in meetings. Nobody at the office knew that my marriage was dissolving one unread text at a time. Every evening, I'd come home and stare at the spot where she used to sit on the couch, legs tucked under her, hair falling into her face as she read. At night, I'd wake up reaching for her out of habit. My hand would land on empty sheets. I kept telling myself this was just a phase, that she'd come back, apologize, say she was overwhelmed and scared but ready to try again. I believed that right up until the day she finally showed up at the condo. It was a Thursday evening. I'd just gotten home, loosened my tie, and was scrolling through emails when I heard the key turn in the lock. My heart slammed into my ribs. I shot to my feet as Emily stepped inside, holding a small overnight bag. She looked pale, her hair pulled back into a messy bun. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. She was wearing the blue jacket I'd given her for Christmas 2 years ago. Hey, I said, breathless. Hi, she replied softly. An awkward silence filled the space between us. She set her bag down by the door but didn't step further inside. I'm not staying, she said quickly. I needed to talk. Okay. I tried to keep my voice even. About what? Her hands twisted in the sleeves of her jacket. About us. I felt my stomach turn. She lifted her eyes to mine, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of the woman I'd fallen in love with. I can't do this anymore, she whispered. My breath caught. She held up a trembling hand. Please, let me say it. I swallowed hard and nodded. I've been pretending for so long, she said, tears welling up. Pretending I'm okay. Pretending I still feel the same way I used to. But I don't. And I hate myself for it. I hate that I can't make myself love you the way you deserve. I stared at her, my chest caving in. You're saying you don't love me? Her voice cracked. Not the way I used to. I care about you. So much. But it's not enough anymore. It felt like my entire body was turning to glass, ready to shatter at a single touch. She wiped her eyes. I know I should have told you sooner, but I kept hoping it would come back. That spark. That feeling. But it didn't. A tear slipped down my cheek before I could stop it. So, what now? She looked utterly defeated. I think we should separate. At least for now. I sank onto the couch, my knees giving out. Separate, I repeated numbly. I need space to figure out who I am without us, she whispered. I don't want space, I croaked. I want my wife. She let out a quiet sob. I know, and I hate that I'm hurting you. But staying would be worse. For both of us. I buried my face in my hands, trying to breathe. She knelt in front of me, placing her hands over mine. You're a good man, Evan. You deserve someone who loves you completely. I can't keep lying to you. I looked up at her through a haze of tears. So that's it. 7 years and we're just done. Her lip trembled. I'm so sorry. She stood up slowly, grabbed her bag, and walked to the door. She paused there, back still to me. Don't follow me, Evan, she said, voice breaking. Please. Then she was gone. The door clicked shut, and the silence that followed was louder than any scream I'd ever heard. After she left, time bent around me like heat over asphalt. Hours stretched into days, days blurred into weeks. I existed, but barely. At first, I tried to keep living in our condo like nothing had happened. I cleaned obsessively. I made the bed every morning, even though half of it stayed untouched. I cooked dinner for 2, then scraped her half into the trash. I left her toothbrush in the holder. Her slippers by the bed. Like if I kept everything ready, she might walk through the door and decide she'd made a mistake. But every day she didn't come home felt like a verdict. People talk about heartbreak like it's some romantic storm of weeping and candlelight. But the truth is, heartbreak is boring. It's waking up at 3 a.m. because you thought you heard her voice in the hallway. It's opening the fridge and seeing her favorite oat milk and wondering if you should throw it away or leave it there just in case. It's answering coworkers with automatic smiles when they ask, "How's Emily?" because you can't bear to say, "She left." It's silence so thick you start leaving the TV on for background noise, just to convince yourself you're not completely alone. About a month after she left, I finally cracked and texted her. Me, Are you okay? She answered half an hour later. Emily, I'm fine. Please don't make this harder. That was the moment it hit me. She wasn't coming back. I stared at that tiny bubble of text until the screen dimmed. My thumb hovered over the keyboard, wanting to ask 1,000 questions. When did you stop loving me? Is there someone else? Is this really forever? But I didn't type any of it. I turned off my phone and left it face down on the coffee table. 2 days later, I packed a suitcase. Not because I wanted to leave, but because I couldn't stand another night in that condo with her ghost haunting every room. I called my friend Noah. We'd been tight since high school, bonded over late-night video games and dumb road trips. When I told him what happened, he didn't say I told you so. He didn't ask me what I did wrong. He just said, I'll come get you. You're not staying alone. By that afternoon, I was sleeping on his couch. Noah's place smelled like cheap pizza and pine-scented floor cleaner. His furniture was mismatched, an ancient brown couch with a sagging middle cushion, a glass coffee table perpetually smudged with fingerprints. But there was something comforting about being there. Noah let me stay without questions. He tossed me a blanket, pointed to the fridge, and said, make yourself at home. Beer's on the bottom shelf. That first night, I lay on his couch staring at the popcorn-textured ceiling. I could hear Noah snoring in the next room. Outside, cars hissed past on wet pavement. I tried not to think about how Emily used to curl her leg over mine when it rained, how she'd whisper, I love the sound of rain. It makes me feel safe. Now the rain just made me feel cold. The next morning, Noah slapped a coffee mug into my hand and said, we're going out. Out where? I croaked. Anywhere that's not this couch, he replied. You need sunlight and human interaction before you turn into a vampire. He dragged me to a diner we used to haunt in college. Sticky vinyl booths, waitresses who called everyone Han, coffee that tasted like burnt rubber. Halfway through a stack of pancakes, Noah leaned forward and said, you gonna tell me what the hell happened? Or am I supposed to guess? I stared into my coffee. She doesn't love me anymore. He let out a long, low whistle. Man, I'm sorry. Yeah, you think there's someone else? I shook my head. No. I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe it's just me. It's not you, Noah said firmly. M's always been complicated. I snorted. That's one word for it. He paused, studying me. You still love her? I swallowed. Yeah. Then you gotta decide, he said. Either you keep chasing a ghost, or you start living your own life again. That night, back on his couch, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying all the moments that had seemed so harmless at the time. The way she'd started staying late at work. The way she stopped laughing at my jokes. The way she'd flinch if I touched her arm when she was stressed. It all felt so obvious now, like warning lights I'd ignored. But the worst part wasn't the loss. The worst part was realizing how much of myself I'd lost trying to hold on to her. I spent the next few weeks in limbo. Noah's couch became both a refuge and a reminder that I no longer had a home. During the day, I worked remotely from my laptop, taking Zoom meetings with a fake smile and answering emails like my heart wasn't bleeding out of my chest. At night, I stared at the ceiling, wondering if Emily was sleeping better without me beside her. Noah tried to help. He dragged me out for burgers. For pickup basketball games, I mostly sat out. For drives to nowhere that ended at gas stations and late-night milkshakes. And it helped. Not in some grand, life-altering way, but enough to keep me from drowning. Then one Saturday morning, something shifted. I woke up on the couch to the smell of bacon and the sound of Noah banging around the kitchen. I shuffled in, bleary-eyed. Morning, heartbreak, he said, not unkindly. Eat something. I grabbed a plate and sat at the counter. After a few bites, I said, I think I'm ready. He looked up. Ready for what? To move on. To start over. Noah set down the spatula and crossed his arms. You sure? I nodded slowly. I can't keep living in the wreckage. It's time to build something new. He smiled. Hell yeah. That's what I'm talking about. That afternoon, I toured a small apartment on the edge of the city. Nothing fancy. One bedroom, peeling linoleum in the kitchen, a view of a parking lot. But it was clean. Quiet. Mine. I signed the lease that same week. Moving in was a one-man job, just a few suitcases, a second-hand mattress, and a folding table I got from a yard sale down the block. I didn't even have a couch yet, but when I sat on the floor with a takeout box in my lap, I felt more grounded than I had in months. The silence in that apartment wasn't heavy like it had been in the condo. It wasn't the absence of something. It was space for something new. I made a rule: no contact with Emily. No texts. No calls. No social media snooping. It wasn't about punishing her. It was about freeing myself. Because I knew if I cracked even once, if I read one message, looked at one photo, I'd fall right back into the spiral. So I deleted our chat thread, archived our wedding photos into a hard drive I shoved into a drawer, unfollowed her on everything. And then I started focusing on the one person I'd neglected most during our marriage, myself. I joined a gym. Not some flashy place with mirrors and muscle brothers, just a small 24-hour joint with clanking iron and grizzled regulars who kept to themselves. At first, I hated it. I felt weak, sore, out of place. But I kept showing up. I lifted. I ran. I sweated out every sleepless night and unanswered question. And slowly, the pain started to fade. I started cooking again. Nothing fancy, grilled chicken, scrambled eggs, the occasional box of mac and cheese. But it felt good to take care of myself. I picked up books I hadn't touched in years. Went for long walks with no destination. Played guitar again, fingers stumbling over old chords I used to know by heart. And I slept. For the first time in forever, I really slept. A few months passed. My muscles filled out. My eyes got brighter. I laughed more. People at work noticed. A woman in marketing asked if I'd done something different. I just smiled. One night, Noah and I sat on the curb outside a burger joint, fries between us. "You look good, man," he said. "Like, genuinely good." I shrugged. "I feel okay." "That's better than good. That's real." We clinked soda cups and a quiet toast. Then one day, out of nowhere, Emily texted. "Emily, I saw your name pop up on LinkedIn. Hope you're doing well." My chest tightened. I hadn't seen her name in months. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I deleted it without replying. Because I was doing well. And I didn't need her to know that to make it true. That night, I stood in my kitchen eating an apple, staring out the window at the street below. A couple walked by, holding hands. I didn't feel bitterness or longing. Just peace. I had made it through the fire. And I hadn't just survived. I had started to rebuild. Winter arrived quietly that year, slipping into the city on a cold wind that rattled windows and dusted the streets in fine powder. I found myself leaning into the chill rather than avoiding it, bundling up for long walks at dusk, my breath fogging in the glow of street lamps. The city felt different now. Before, every block had been haunted by memories of Emily, places we'd eaten, stores where we'd argued over rugs, the park bench where we'd once planned our future. But as the days grew shorter, those places stopped feeling like shrines to a life I'd lost. They just became places again. Around the holidays, Noah convinced me to come to his company's Christmas party. "You gotta get out there," he said. "At least let people see the new you." "I'm not really in the mood for holiday cheer," I protested. "Too bad," he said. "Put on a damn sweater." So I did. The party was in a brewery downtown. Brick walls. Edison bulbs hanging on thick cords. A live band in the corner playing acoustic covers of pop songs. At first, I stood awkwardly near the bar, nursing a soda and trying not to look like I was counting the minutes. But eventually, I relaxed. People were laughing. Music pulsed gently through the room. It felt okay. At one point, a woman introduced herself. Her name was Lily. She worked in finance, had a laugh that burst out like sunlight. We ended up talking for an hour about music and travel and the best places to get tacos in the city. She asked if I'd ever been to Japan. I told her about the time Emily and I had planned to go, then canceled the trip because she'd gotten a big promotion and said she was too busy. As soon as the words left my mouth, I winced. Lily picked up on it immediately. "Ex?" she asked gently. "Yeah," I admitted. She tilted her head. "You don't have to talk about it." I sighed. "It's okay. It's just still a thing sometimes." She nodded. "Of course it is." Then she grinned. "But for the record, you should still go to Japan. Even if it's solo." Something about that stuck with me. I walked home that night under swirling snowflakes, cheeks burning from the cold and the realization that I hadn't thought about Emily in hours. The next morning, I booked a flight to Tokyo for spring. It felt impulsive. It also felt exactly right. In the months that followed, my life settled into an unexpected rhythm. Work was steady. My new apartment finally felt lived in, with a proper couch, shelves of books, and the soft clutter of a life in progress. I kept going to the gym, kept reading, kept playing guitar, my fingers growing more confident with each song. I wasn't chasing some big transformation anymore. I was just living. Sometimes, Emily popped into my head. A certain song on the radio. The smell of a specific shampoo. A sudden laugh in a crowd that sounded like hers. But when those moments came, I didn't feel devastated. Just a quiet ache. A soft thank you for the years we shared and the lessons that came from the ending. Then, one gray Saturday afternoon, I ran into her. It was at a grocery store of all places. The fluorescent lights were buzzing overhead. I was standing in the produce section, debating the merits of organic spinach, when I heard a familiar voice say my name. Evan? I turned, and there she was. Emily. She looked older. Not worse, just different. Her hair was shorter, styled into a neat bob. Her face was thinner. Her eyes were the same deep brown, but rimmed with something that looked like regret. Hey, I said, my voice steadier than I expected. Hey, she echoed, clutching a shopping basket to her chest. We stood there in an awkward bubble of silence while people squeezed past us, hunting for avocados and lettuce. You look good, she said finally. Thanks. You too. She blinked, and her eyes shimmered like she might cry. I didn't know you shopped here. New apartments a few blocks over, I said casually. Been here a while now. Oh, she said, nodding. That's good. Another silence fell. Are you happy? She asked quietly. I paused, considering. Yeah, I think I am. Her lip trembled. I'm glad. I felt a strange mixture of affection and distance looking at her. Part of me still remembered every curve of her face, every freckle. But another part of me felt like I was staring at a stranger. She took a hesitant step closer. I've thought about you a lot. I gave a gentle smile. I've thought about you too. Just not the same way anymore. She swallowed. I'm so sorry for how I left things. I don't know. I was lost. I know, I said. I was too. Her eyes filled with tears. Would you ever? I don't know, want to get coffee sometime? Just to catch up? I hesitated. Not because I hated her. Not because I wanted revenge. But because I finally understood that my peace had come from letting go. I don't think that's a good idea, I said softly. She blinked. Oh, I wish you well, I really do. But I'm not looking backward anymore. She nodded, pressing her lips together as a tear slipped down her cheek. Okay. I gave her a small wave, then turned and walked away. I didn't look back. When I stepped out of that grocery store, the wind cut cold against my face, scattering stray leaves across the sidewalk. For a moment, I stood there under the pale sky, the automatic doors sliding shut behind me. My heart was beating fast, not from pain, but from the weight of finality. It was done. I'd thought for so long that if I ever saw Emily again, I'd collapse. That my chest would cave in under the weight of all the unsaid words. But I didn't collapse. I didn't even stumble. I just walked away, carrying my groceries, feeling oddly light. The next day, I told Noah. We were sitting in his living room, the football game droning on in the background. He had a beer in hand. I was sipping coffee. So, I saw Emily yesterday, I said. Noah nearly choked on his drink. Holy shit. How'd that go? I shrugged. We talked for a minute. She wanted to get coffee. I told her no. He stared at me for a long moment. Then a slow grin spread across his face. Damn right you did. I don't hate her, I said quietly. But I don't want to go backward, either. That's not hate, man. That's growth. For the first time in a long while, I wasn't haunted by what-ifs. What if I'd been more attentive? What if I'd noticed the signs earlier? What if I'd fought harder? I'd carried those questions like weights strapped to my chest. But seeing Emily, seeing the person she'd become and the man I'd become, showed me how far I'd come. We both changed. And that was okay. I threw myself into preparing for my Japan trip. I researched neighborhoods in Tokyo, saved restaurant recommendations, tried to memorize basic Japanese phrases. When my flight finally boarded that April, I felt nervous, but good nervous, like standing at the edge of a diving board. It was my first time leaving the country alone, and it felt like proof that I was no longer waiting for anyone else to live my life. Tokyo was electric. Neon lights blazing, side streets full of tiny bars and steaming ramen shops, crowds moving in organized chaos. I wandered for hours, getting lost on purpose. I ate sushi at a standing counter where no one spoke English. I watched cherry blossoms drift onto temple rooftops like pink snow. One evening, I stood on the rooftop of a tall building in Shibuya, watching thousands of people crossing below me. 5 years ago, I would have wanted to share that moment, to feel someone else's fingers laced with mine as we watched the city pulse with life. But as the breeze tugged at my jacket and the lights glimmered across the skyline, I felt perfectly okay being there alone. Not lonely, just alone. And that was a crucial difference. When I got back home, my world felt bigger somehow. Noah and I caught up over beers, laughing about how I'd accidentally ordered raw horse meat in a tiny izakaya because I'd misunderstood the menu. Dude, he said, wiping tears from his eyes. You've officially lived. Yes, so, I said, grinning. Over the summer, life settled into a rhythm. Work, gym, cooking, the occasional night out. I started dating a little, slowly and cautiously. Not because I was desperate, but because I finally felt ready. Most dates didn't go anywhere, but I didn't measure my worth in how quickly I found someone new. I was content. One September evening, I found myself sitting on my apartment balcony as the sun set behind the city skyline. A warm breeze rustled the trees. The air smelled like grilled food drifting up from someone's patio below. I thought about Emily, about how once upon a time, I believed my entire future was tethered to her, how I'd measured my happiness by her mood, my value by her affection. Now, I felt grateful for the man that heartbreak had forced me to become. Stronger, calmer, whole. Sometimes I still remembered the sound of her laugh, the shape of her handwriting, the way she'd hum along to songs in the car, off-key and carefree. But those memories didn't sting anymore. They felt like pages in an old book I'd already read, a story I'd once loved, but had finished. That night, as the last pink streaks of sunset faded into indigo sky, I whispered softly to no one. Thank you. Not to Emily, exactly, but to everything that had brought me to this moment. By the time autumn deepened into October, the city was awash in amber leaves and the sharp scent of cold air. I found a quiet comfort in the rhythm of my days and knowing I no longer owed my happiness to anyone but myself. I'd wake up early, lace up my shoes, and run through streets littered with fallen leaves, the sky still pale and streaked with dawn. I'd come back, shower, make coffee, and feel the kind of peace I used to think only existed in fiction. I'd become someone I barely recognized, and that was a good thing. One Saturday, Noah and I were sitting at a rooftop bar, wrapped in jackets, our breath visible in the chill. The city spread out below us in a sprawl of twinkling lights. Noah tilted his bottle toward me. So, serious question. I raised an eyebrow. Hit me. Do you ever regret how things ended? I thought about it, staring out at the lights blinking across the river. Sometimes, I admitted, not because I want her back, but because I wish we'd known how to love each other better. Noah nodded slowly. Fair enough. He studied me for a second, then smiled. I gotta say, man, you're not the same dude who crashed on my couch crying into pizza. Thanks, I said, laughing. No, seriously. You look lighter. Like you're carrying your own weight now, instead of everyone else's. I took a sip of my drink and let that sink in. Yeah, I said finally. I think I am. A few days later, I got a message from Lily, the woman I'd met at the Christmas party months before. Lily, hey, remember how you said you'd visit Japan? Want to grab coffee and tell me about it? I stared at the screen, my heart skipping a beat, not from fear, but from the realization that I genuinely wanted to say yes. Me, I'd love that. We met at a little cafe near my apartment. She waved from a corner table, her smile as warm as I remembered. We talked for hours. About Japan, about books, about the weird comfort of grocery shopping alone, about how sometimes losing something you thought you couldn't live without is the only way you discover who you really are. She listened without judgment when I told her parts of my story. She didn't flinch when I admitted how dark those days had been. And when we parted, she hugged me tight, and it felt like an embrace from the future rather than the past. I didn't fall in love overnight. I wasn't looking to replace Emily or to fill a void. But as weeks went by, I realized Lily made me laugh in ways I hadn't laughed in years. She challenged me, pushed me, calmed me down. One evening, we sat on my balcony, wrapped in a blanket as the first snowflakes of winter drifted down. She looked at me and said, "You're not afraid to be alone, are you?" I shook my head. Not anymore. She smiled. Good. Because I don't ever want to be someone you're with just to avoid loneliness. I pulled her closer and kissed her temple. You won't be. Months later, Lily and I traveled to Kyoto together. We wandered temple gardens glowing with lantern light, ate street food under cherry blossoms, rode silent trains through rolling green hills. One afternoon, we stood on a quiet bridge, watching koi swim below us. Lily squeezed my hand and said, "Do you ever think about her?" I didn't have to ask who she meant. Sometimes, I said honestly, but not in the way I used to. Lily nodded. Good. I looked around at the delicate petals drifting down, the air sweet and cool. Truth is, I said, I'm grateful for it all, even the pain. Why? Because without it, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be me. Years ago, I thought loving someone meant holding on no matter what, that letting go was failure. Now I know the bravest thing you can do is walk away from a love that stopped loving you back and believe there's still a life worth living beyond it. It doesn't mean the past disappears. It means it stops defining you. I still think of Emily sometimes. When I hear a song she loved, when I pass a restaurant where we once laughed so hard we cried. But the ache is gone. In its place is a quiet gratitude for who we were and for who I've become. On my last night in Kyoto, I stood outside our hotel, watching paper lanterns swaying gently in the breeze. Lily slipped her arm around my waist. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "I'm more than okay." And I meant it. Because the man who once believed he couldn't survive losing her was standing there, whole and alive, ready for everything still waiting on the road ahead.